Episode 56. Harry persisted in the common room that evening, but his assertion that the whole team would be devastated if Ron left was somewhat undermined by the fact that the rest of the team was sitting in a huddle in a distant corner, clearly muttering about Ron and casting him nasty looks. Finally, Harry tried getting angry again in hope of provoking Ron into a defiant and hopefully goal-saving attitude, but this strategy did not appear to work any better than encouragement. Ron went to bed as dejected and hopeless as ever. Harry lay awake for a very long time in the darkness. He did not want to lose the upcoming match. Not only was it his first as captain, but he was determined to beat Draco Malfoy at Quidditch, even if he could not yet prove his suspicions about him. Yet if Ron played as he had done in the last few practices, their chances of winning were very slim. If only there was something he could do to make Ron pull himself together, make him play at the top of his form, something that would ensure that Ron had a really good day. And the answer came to Harry in one sudden, glorious stroke of inspiration. Breakfast was the usual excitable affair next morning. The Slytherins hissed and booed loudly as every member of the Gryffindor team entered the great hall. Harry glanced at the ceiling and saw a clear, pale blue sky, a good omen. The Gryffindor table, a solid mass of red and gold, cheered as Harry and Ron approached. Harry grinned and waved. Ron grimaced weakly and shook his head.
"Cheer up, Ron," called Lavender. "I know you'll be brilliant."
Ron ignored her. "Tea?" Harry asked him. "Coffee? Pumpkin juice?" "Anything," said Ron glumly, taking a moody bite of toast. A few minutes later, Hermione, who had become so tired of Ron's recent unpleasant behavior that she had not come down to breakfast with them, paused on her way up the table.
"How are you both feeling?"
she asked tentatively, her eyes on the back of Ron's head. "Fine," said Harry, who was concentrating on handing Ron a glass of pumpkin juice. "There you go, Ron. Drink up." Ron had just raised the glass to his lips when Hermione spoke sharply.
"Don't drink that, Ron."
Both Harry and Ron looked up at her. "Why not?" said Ron. Hermione was now staring at Harry as though she could not believe her eyes.
"You just put something in that drink."
"Excuse me?" said Harry.
"You heard me. I saw you. You just tipped something into Ron's drink. You've got the bottle in your hand right now."
"I don't know what you're talking about," said Harry, swinging the little bottle hastily into his pocket.
"Ron, I warn you, don't drink it,"
Hermione said again, alarmed. But Ron picked up the glass, drained it in one gulp, and said, "Stop bossing me around, Hermione." She looked scandalized. Bending low so that only Harry could hear her, she hissed,
"You should be expelled for that. I'd never have believed it of you, Harry."
"Hark who's talking," he whispered back. "Confounded anybody lately?" She stormed up the table away from them. Harry watched her go without regret. Hermione had never really understood what a serious business Quidditch was. "Conditions look ideal," said Ginny, ignoring Ron. "And guess what? That Slytherin chaser, Vasey, he took a bludger in the head yesterday during their practice, and he's too sore to play. And even better than that, Malfoy's gone off sick too." "What?" said Harry, wheeling around to stare at her. "He's ill? What's wrong with him?" "No idea, but it's great for us," said Ginny brightly. "They're playing Harper instead. He's in my year, and he's an idiot." Harry smiled back vaguely, but as he pulled on his scarlet robes, his mind was far from Quidditch. Malfoy had once before claimed he could not play due to injury, but on that occasion he had made sure the whole match was rescheduled for a time that suited the Slytherins better. Why was he now happy to let a substitute go on? Was he really ill, or was he faking? Fishy, isn't it? He said in an undertone to Ron, Malfoy not playing. Lucky, I call it, said Ron, looking slightly more animated, and Vaisy's off too. He's their best goal scorer. I didn't fancy. Hey, he said suddenly, freezing halfway through pulling on his keeper's gloves and staring at Harry. What? You. Ron had dropped his voice. He looked both scared and excited. My drink. My pumpkin juice. You didn't. Harry raised his eyebrows but said nothing except, We'll be starting in about 5 minutes. You'd better get your boots on. They walked out onto the pitch to tumultuous roars and boos. One end of the stadium was solid red and gold, the other a sea of green and silver. Many Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaws had taken sides too. Amidst all the yelling and clapping, Harry could distinctly hear the roar of Luna Lovegood's famous lion-topped hat. Harry stepped up to Madame Hooch, the referee, who was standing ready to release the balls from the crate. Captain, shake hands, she said, and Harry had his hand crushed by the new Slytherin captain, Urquhart. Mount your brooms. On the whistle. 3, 2, 1. The whistle sounded. Harry and the others kicked off hard from the frozen ground, and they were away. Harry soared around the perimeter of the grounds, looking around for the snitch and keeping one eye on Harper, who was zigzagging far below him. Then a voice that was jarringly different to the usual commentators started up. Well, there they go, and I think we're all surprised to see the team that Potter's put together this year. Many thought, given Ronald Weasley's patchy performance as keeper last year, that he might be off the team, but of course a close personal friendship with the captain does help. These words were greeted with jeers and applause from the Slytherin end of the pitch. Harry craned around on his broom to look toward the commentator's podium. A tall, skinny, blond boy with an upturned nose was standing there, talking into the magical megaphone that had once been Lee Jordan's. Harry recognized Zacharias Smith, a Hufflepuff player whom he heartily disliked. Oh, and here comes Slytherin's first attempt on goal. It's Urquhart streaking down the pitch, and Harry's stomach turned over. Weasley saves it. Well, he's bound to get lucky sometimes, I suppose. That's right, Smith. He is, muttered Harry, grinning to himself as he dived amongst the chasers with his eyes searching all around for some hint of the elusive snitch. With half an hour of the game gone, Gryffindor were leading 60 points to 0, Ron having made some truly spectacular saves, some by the very tips of his gloves, and Ginny having scored 4 of Gryffindor's 6 goals. This effectively stopped Zacharias wondering loudly whether the two Weasleys were only there because Harry liked them, and he started on Peeks and Coot instead. Of course, Coots isn't really the usual build for a beater, said Zacharias loftily. They generally got a bit more muscle. Hit a bludger at him, Harry called to Coot as he zoomed past, but Coot, grinning broadly, chose to aim the next bludger at Harper instead, who was just passing Harry in the opposite direction. Harry was pleased to hear the dull, that meant the bludger had found its mark. It seemed as though Gryffindor could do no wrong. Again and again they scored, and again at the end of the other pitch, Ron saved goals with apparent ease. He was actually smiling now, and when the crowd greeted a particularly good save with a rousing chorus of the old favorite, Weasley is our king, he pretended to conduct them from on high.
Thinks he's really something special today, doesn't he?
Said a snide voice, and Harry was nearly knocked off his broom as Harper collided with him hard and deliberately.
You blood traitor, pal!